tornado watch into the early morning hours. Now, I want to know why now to show you the extent of this watch area and the reason why it goes until 7 a.m. on Tuesday morning. Obviously, we are not still going to be under the threat of this at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, but this watch actually extends all the way toward Panama City, and it's very possible that it will become more severe and possibly a greater threat as those storms move out of Mississippi into Alabama and Florida, a more primed atmosphere well out ahead of that line of storms. However, with that said, we've also started to see southeast Louisiana getting into a more primed atmosphere. Something we didn't want to happen, but was expected to happen, is we're starting to see a warmer, more humid air mass surge out ahead of the front. That creates more instability. Temperatures, I'm going to show you in just a second, have actually been on the rise over the last couple of hours. The temperatures and the humidity, and that leads to greater instability. So that creates more of a potency with this line of storms and the threat of any storms that develop out ahead to also become strong to severe, with a greater threat for those to rotate. Nothing so far as it is moving into Lafayette right now. Not quite to Baton Rouge, North Shore, we're not there yet, nor are we south of the lake. What little rain we have seen still kind of surging in from the south toward the north. A few pockets of even some more moderate to heavier showers earlier around Poplarville are kind of moving right along I-59 and then moving or coming to an end. So we're not into round two just yet. Getting a rough idea of the timing. Now, this model has started to finally get a better grasp of where that line is right now. However, with that said, the line is also moving at about 35 to almost 40 miles an hour. So it's a little bit faster than even our model here is indicating. I think maybe by about 10 or so, we're already starting to see it probably about here, where it's already into Baton Rouge and maybe just starting to clip Tangipahoa Hope Parish by the 10 o'clock hour. As we continue through the next several hours going toward midnight, more of the North Shore river parishes and just starting to move into, say, western Lafourche and western Terrebonne. As we go beyond midnight to 1 a.m., more into Mississippi, maybe just starting to clip the eastern part of St. Tammany, metro New Orleans, down toward the coast, and then by about 2 to 3, exiting most of our Mississippi counties, maybe just near the mouth of the river, and then the threat for us is done. We'll be watching that western line, though, as it moves very quickly toward the east. And as I'd mentioned, we are now in a little bit more of a primed atmosphere for those storms to become strong to severe. The big question is just how warm and humid the air mass gets. We're in the upper 60s right now and 70s elsewhere in this air mass, so it's a big warm up. Baton Rouge is at 74 degrees, 73 Gonzales, 72 Reserve. All locations, this is the warmest we have been so far today. And with this into that warmer, more humid air mass, it just opens up this area, at least for southeast Louisiana, for the strong to severe storms. This warm front, however, will continue to move northward, and with the longer duration of that warmer and more humid air for points east of us, that's why the threat may be even greater for, say, lower Alabama and the Florida Panhandle as we go into the early morning hours tomorrow. Now, cold air will be right behind this front. They're at 72 degrees at Lafayette, but we're at 56 degrees Lake Charles. Alexandria is at 56 degrees, and drier air is immediately moving in behind it. So once the front is through by 3, 4 o'clock, that colder, drier air mass will be immediately moving in right behind it, along with a wind shift and less wind. It'll still be windy to breezy during the day tomorrow, but not nearly as windy as we have been so far today, with winds gusting over 30+ miles an hour, sustained at 20+ miles an hour. This is that surge of moisture out ahead of the front, which is not what we were hoping that would happen, but all models indicated that it would. Still a very vigorous upper level system that is moving across Oklahoma right now. In its or out ahead of it in the eastern side, we've got that surge of moisture coming in from the Gulf, helping to fuel these showers and storms and the increased instability. That will continue through the night tonight and into overnight. Again, timing this out, we'll probably start to see that line into Tangi and maybe our western river parishes, St. James, certainly Ascension, Assumption, by the 10 o'clock hour. As we continue through the night, models keep trying to break it apart. I don't don't see that happening, but by midnight, I think more the North Shore, metro area down toward the bayou. And then as we continue through the late night or early morning hours, I should say, of Tuesday, that line will continue pushing off to the east. So it is not going to be an all-night event. And the good news is, I'm going to kind of jump back here to show you the line itself. As the rain first moves in, it's not going to be a long duration rain either. This will be fairly quickly moving through, and is a very narrow band of storms. This is not a very wide area. It is not like the clusters of storms that we saw earlier in the day today. These should move through fairly quickly once they do arrive. At the moment, the more intense storms are a little bit farther to the north, a little bit near some of the upper level energy, and that's where we're expecting maybe a bit more of that severe threat, especially off to our east, but something that both sides of the lake, really all of southeast Louisiana, our entire viewing area, will have to watch very closely through the overnight. Thankfully, so far, it's been quiet, but it is now moving into a more hostile, or I shouldn't say hostile environment, but a more actually conducive environment for further intensification of the line itself and any storms developing out ahead of it. Something we're watching very closely. I don't think for the next hour, maybe even almost 2 hours, will most of our area have any issues from this. It'll all be starting probably after 11 toward 1 to 2 a.m. that these storms move on through. You can hear a lot of lightning, some gusty winds, and hopefully limited, if nothing else, no damage from the storms as they move on through. And again, sometimes damage is damage, whether it was from a tornado or straight line winds, and these will certainly be associated with some straight line winds. We'll be watching it very closely over the course of the next few hours, and we're not going anywhere until this line is done. Again, the good news is the storm threat will be done as we get into daybreak on Tuesday. For now, I'm Chief Meteorologist Chris Franklin.